Hey, Wildwood people. Greg Koch here, Eric Sakamoto. Where are we? We are in Taylor Central, and we're gonna go from stem to stern to this bad boy, starting here where the wood dwells, taking it to the end where the guitars are unleashed. What do you think about that?
I'm totally excited about it. Ready to show you guys the entire factory, meet some people, have an interview with Andy Powers.
Unlimited powers is what I'm calling him from here on in.
You got
Andy,
that.
unlimited powers. So stay tuned and stand clear and stand firm. Out. Hey, Wildwood party people. Thanks for tuning in. A majestic experience is about to explode from your screen. Here at Taylor Guitars, Patrick here is going to give us a little overview of what we're going to see here today at this majestic establishment. What do we got going on here? What's the process of making one of these splendiferous axes of the night?
Well, you'll see the milling department where they give us the mahogany in blank form, which eventually becomes a neck blank, which you'll see happening in the neck department. You'll see a truss rod getting put in, a fretboard getting glued to a neck blank, which will then look like that. Eventually, a heel will be glued to it. Frets will be put in, not necessarily in that order. It'll get carved. This is a finished carved neck. Started with a neck blank, fretboard, carved neck. In the laser room, you'll see where we cut out our tops and backs, and also flat sides, which you'll see bent up in a side bending department, which will give us something like this. In the bracing department, where we are right now, they brace the tops and backs. And right behind us, the tops, backs, and sides are all glued together. And after a little bit of tender, loving care,
Bada bing.
binding is applied with purfling. In this case, a Florentine cutaway is cut into it. Looks like a nice Adirondack top on a Cocobolo custom guitar. This and the neck will go to finish, and then final assembly in one end and out the other.
That sounded kind of dirty.
It's a
But I embrace
machine.
it.
It's a Bob Taylor machine. Put in the parts and out comes guitars.
I like it. I'm ready to see it, shall we? Let's hit it.
go.
Come. Welcome back, folks, here at the Taylor Magnificent Manufacturing Super Complex. Is that really what it's called? It
Sure,
should
that's
be.
what it should be, yeah.
I'm here with Joe. This is BTO business, Bachman Turner Overdrive. What's happening?
It's our build-to-order program.
I like that kind of talk.
It basically starts here, and this is the laser room. So we store all the wood in here, and then everything starts taking shape here. All the backs are glued up, tops are picked out, sides are cut, lasers are used to do all that right behind you, what you see.
Pretty unbelievable. This place is immaculate. You can like eat off the floor here. Do you eat off the floor here occasionally?
Occasionally I've been known to pick up a few pieces here and there, but
Delicious.
I try not to.
And the wood particles are good for the colon, as
That's
we
right,
all well know.
that's right.
So we see just stacks of wood here everywhere. Lord have mercy. So
Yeah.
how much of a supply is this right here? I mean, how long would this last?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. Certain species we go through faster. Rosewood, we have it stickered here. We'll go through it faster because the 7s, 8s, and 9s are all built out of rosewood. However, we have Koa up here that we only build the K series out of, so it'll move a little bit slower.
Got it.
We could have anywhere from 2 weeks worth to 2 years worth in here at any time or more.
No, what's like the climate control in here to make sure?
Climate
everything-
control, this is a climate control area. It's kept at about 75 degrees and about 43% humidity. So it's an ideal climate for wood. So if you see all the stuff that's stickered really nice is what we call stickered. What that's doing is acclimating. It's being climatized to this precise acclimation of climate and everything. So that's the ideal temperature that we wanted to settle in at.
Okay. So Now the $1 million question, of course, we're going to see a bunch of the different parts of this factory as we go on, but someone orders a guitar specifically to his or her specifications.
In the BTO?
If you will.
Okay.
How long are we talking? Of course, it probably depends on what they all want. But
It depends on what they want. We've actually reestablished the way we've been building them, and we're actually getting them through the beginning process is a lot faster. So from the time that the dealer and the customer sign off on it, we've got it down to about 6 weeks before that customer has their build to order guitar in hand. If everything goes precise, they're playing a guitar within 6 weeks.
That's pretty unbelievable.
It's pretty unbelievable.
That's got to be like an industry record.
I would say so.
I know certain other places where it's like a year and a half.
Yeah, I can name a couple of those places. Yeah.
Which shall remain nameless at this juncture in time.
Perfect.
6 weeks, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So if I placed an order today.
You placed an order today and it got all signed off by your boss and
Then does my wife have to sign off on it, or is that the part of the
I
deal?
highly recommend it. We've had a few that have, we won't go into details on those.
Fair enough. Well, cool. Anything else that you would like to just tell us about in this particular room? What's this kind of propeller looking like apparatus?
Those are
back
our
here?
glue up wheels. So what you see there is 16 spots to glue up tops or backs. They will put two pieces of a back or a top together, join it, glue it, and it'll stay in that wheel for about 16 minutes while it's drying. So by the time you put it in and it sends it around the wheel and you've loaded it up, you can take it out and it's dry. The next day it'll get sanded out and it'll become a back right here after it's sanded out, or a top.
Now, do you find that the acumen of tattooed individuals is a little bit more stoic than the non-tattooed members of your workforce?
Absolutely. They are some of the best employees we have here, as you'll see around the factory.
Let that be a lesson to you. Let's move on. Thanks, Joe.
All right.
Pa!
Hi, this is Eric Sakamoto with Taylor Guitars, District Sales Manager, and I'm the lucky manager who gets the honor to work with Wildwood Guitars. We're here in the Million area in El Cajon, California. Right behind me we have one of our planers that's actually planing the back and sides of some of our guitars. And when Taylor Guitars started in 1974, Bob Taylor bought his first planer, and as you can see, it's 2013, and we're still using it in the facility today. We walked by it, and I mentioned it to Steve that this is a very cool, original planer that we actually still use. So enjoy.
Hey folks, Greg Koch here, continuing our groovulent tour of the Taylor Guitar Factory. I'm here with Brock. Brock, what do we got going on here? Some majesty, some skullduggery. What's happening?
Well, this is where we're performing our bout bends and our waist bends
All right.
here at Taylor Guitars. We've had these machines in place for roughly 10 years, and we've got 5 main shapes here. We do our grand concerts, we do our grand symphony, our dreadnoughts. This is our grand auditoriums, and over there is the newest shape we have, which is the grand orchestra. So we perform our bends in 2 basic steps. The first step is the waist bend.
Okay.
And if you can take a look at the bender here, we have a heating element right in the waist area. And that's the main proponent. I'm sorry, we're looking at this one here.
Okay.
We have a big long shim to provide support for the sides, and there's a main heating element right in the waist area.
Okay.
So what you can see, what Vaughn's doing here is he's prepping a set of sides to be loaded into the bender. So our sides come lasered from the milling department, and each one is lasered to an exact specific shape and length and in profile. And what we do is we put them together with a couple of locator tabs, which are also lasered out.
Okay.
And there's notches lasered into the sides for these locator tabs to position the 2 sets of sides together, both the upper bout side and the lower bout side, in the exact place we need them for the waist to be bent and in the correct position in relation to the overall length of the sides. So as you can see, Vaughn, he's going to go ahead and apply a little bit of moisture to a set of sides. and this is a standard practice. It's not every species of wood gets it. Mostly just the species of woods that we know benefit from it.
Okay.
So what he's doing now is you'll see he just loaded it right into the bender, and it locates off. There's a little shelf on the bottom there. He very simply just rests it right on there, and that locates the whole guitar in terms of where the waist lands.
Okay.
And hits the start button. Now the bending process of the waist is roughly a minute and a half. And then once it reaches the correct shape, it'll stay in that position for another 15 or 20 seconds or so. A red light's gonna come on and it's gonna tell us to hit the button and retract the bender.
So how hot does that thing get in order to...
They get about 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Vaughn, is that right? 250 degrees. And typically we found that we can bend most everything on fast.
And what wood is that in there right now? That's
That looks to be, what are we looking at? Blackwood. That's a set of Blackwood sides.
Okay.
So from that point, when this is finished, he's going to hit the button, it's going to retract. He's going to right away be able to move that over into the next bout bend.
Okay.
Okay? Without no waiting. I'll just take it right in there. He's going to apply a little bit more moisture. It's ready, Vaughn. Now if you look, you can see right here in the waist bender, there's a little tab that's ejecting out of the shim. And what he's going to do is he's going to locate those sides right on that tab based on the little laser tab that he inserted in the guitar.
Okay.
And he's going to make sure that that is located up in there perfectly. And again, what that's going to do is it's going to correctly locate the waist that we just bent here, correctly located as it bends the lower bout and upper bout up into its final shape. So it's very automated. It's got a really high success rate percentage.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I played guitar for years. I never even considered the fact they have to bend the wood in order to make this happen. You're thinking, why doesn't it just snap?
Right. Well, you apply a little bit of moisture, and there's a lot of elasticity in the wood,
Sure.
in the structure of the grain as it heats up, and steam helps to
Sure.
soften the cell structure of the wood.
Wild, man.
Excuse me. So again, this process is roughly about the same time it takes for the waist to bend. Certain guitar species like Cocobolo and Rosewoods, they're very oily.
Okay.
So what we do is we apply a protective sheet of butcher paper around those sides and just wrap it. And in doing so, it helps to keep the shims clean, because as the wood heats up, the oils will secrete
Sure.
out. And it also tends to help hold in a little moisture when you wrap them with paper. So it's a tiny bit of an added benefit there, although it's not really required. These machines were designed in-house to not need moisture added. Although
Okay.
we do find that we do still find considerable success and less of a breakage percentage when we do spray a little bit of water on some of the models, some of the species of wood. So this whole shoe, if you will, is got what we like to refer to as a heating blanket attached to it. And that's this red rubber stuff you see all over all these shoes. So comes down and he loads it into its respective cool down mold, and we place it in the cool down mode while the guitar cools down, and it helps to hold the shape.
I was going to say, as it cools off, you would imagine that it would not maintain the shape.
Mm-hmm.
That is wild.
So as you can see, this is standard procedure, and we're typically successful with most guitar species. Only need anywhere from 4 to 5 minutes to cool down, and we can pull it out and it'll hold its shape.
That is wild.
Yeah, and Like I said, not with all models. Like Cocobolo is so oily, you can pull it out of the waist bend and the bout bend, and that thing will just flop around like as if it's a piece of taffy. It's so oily. So a lot of times with those ones, what we'll do is we'll get it out of the mold. Sometimes we'll even go put it into the blocking mold and let it cool down in the blocking mold to help hold the shape a little better.
Interesting. Cool.
So that's pretty much it.
All right.
For the auto bend portion of the side bending department.
All right, well, tune in a little bit. We're going to move on down the line here, folks. Hey, Wildwood people. We're here. We're going to be bending some sides. Actually, we're doing a cutaway right now, Brock. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, we're going to demonstrate real quick for you a hand bend of a cutaway set of sides on a dreadnought cutaway.
Excellent.
So what we got here is a set of sides that's been completely bent in the waist and the bout, and it's been cooled down, and we've taken the cutaway half of it and we've soaked it in our water bucket, and we generally do that anywhere from 5 to 10.
Wood, yeah, depending on species of wood, 5 to 10
5
minutes.
to 10 minutes. All right, so we're going to hand this off to Billy now, and Billy's going to go ahead and bend it. This process takes about 3 minutes. And we open up all the hand cranks on the benders, bring in all the heating pads or heating shoes, heating elements, and expanding it out. And it's a pretty simple process. He's going to line up, he's going to insert the shim, and he's going to line up the side the sides have a lasered notch placed right where the waist needs to be. And again, that correlates back over to the waist bend and the bout bend. So that's
Okay.
we've bent the waist and the bout in the correct position in relation to the length of the side, so that now when we put it in the cutaway bender, we line up that same notch with a scribed machined tool mark on the bender, so that we can correctly impart the cutaway shape into that side, again in the correct correlation with your overall length, so that it successfully fits in our blocking mold as best as possible. So again, this is about a 3-minute process. Again, soaking the side in water helps to create the steam and the flexibility of the cell structure of the wood for us to be able to successfully bend it.
So here's a little sizzling going on.
A little bit of that. Some sets we can, we know how to treat them. Some of them, just by the weight of the wood or looking how flamey it is, you can get kind of a sense of what special care that set of sides might need as you go into the bending process. Add a little bit more water. Usually there's a water bottle handy here to spray a couple of sprays at the base of the wood, allow the steam to come up and permeate through the wood. But it happens in a couple processes. We start bending over the horn with a shim in there to apply a gentle pull or gentle tug on that side. And then right when we're done with the horn bend, we insert a second shim, and then we start to slowly crank the cutaway portion of the guitar back up into the neck area. So again, this is about a 3-minute process, give or take. And we have a series of cool down jigs over here, similar to the weight and bounce bend area. So these will come out of the cutaway bending iron, and they'll go into the cool down rack.
I keep on expecting to hear a snap, but it ain't happening.
It
Yeah.
does. Every now and again, try not to have it happen at all.
So we perform a basic, simple inspection process after these come out. We look for cracks. We look for anything that might lead us to believe there might be something wrong with it, and it might break down the line.
Burns.
Yeah.
It gets set if they're too long.
We'll sand it, clean it up, and move it on to the next process.
Cool.
Usually sits in the bender for a couple of minutes to really hold its shape. And we have to cool down, just like we had to cool down racks for the oak bends.
And we do have an automated cutaway bender right here, and it's the first one of its kind. It is a GA shape, and we use it quite a bit. And we have plans in the works to eventually get automated cutaway benders for all of our shapes. so that it can become much more automated, just like the auto bend areas,
Got it.
waist bend areas over there.
Is there a timer that goes bing, like your toast is done?
Well, Billy here, yeah, we
I've done it
we do
times
that.
up here.
Yes.
I kind of have a mental timer.
Got
that,
it.
You know, once you do 10,000.
Yeah,
of them,
sure. It's like a instinctual.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And some woods don't stay in the benders as long as others do. Maples, koas have a tendency to burn a little more. We'll just loosen it up a little. Now,
And so this here is the
Finished beast.
a finished cutaway after we've already glued on a heel block and a tail block.
That is so wild. With Brock, he's showing us some bracing here on these fine Taylor guitars. Now, there was a specific Wildwood run of CV braces. Now, what does that all entail? What's the difference between your regular bracing and what we did with the Adirondack? Adirondack, yeah.
Okay, so CV bracing, I've got a great example right here. What I know of the CV bracing has to do with, you know, the basic geometry of our braces. And the CV bracing geometry, they have much more of a scalloped pattern on the braces. There's a lot less material on those. So I believe what that does is it allows for a lot more vibration in the top, which of course, as you know, attributes to a
Tone of doom.
a tone, yeah, a great tone of the guitar. So the X brace pattern on this particular guitar, from about the bridge down on the lower bout of the X brace, you can see the braces are scalloped quite a bit through here, and that goes as well with the #1 fan brace that's on this guitar. So our standard bracing pattern, I have an example of here. It's very similar, but there's just not as much of spruce that's been removed or shaped into these braces.
Cool.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
So here's one of our bracing presses, and what I know about these is the great thing about these is that, you know, they're all the same, and we have our tops. We have what's called what we refer to as a universal shape top, and we laser the profile out of this top so that when it goes in the press, we can dictate what that top is going to be, whether it's going to be a grand concert, grand auditorium, a dreadnought, or a grand symphony. It provides us with a lot of flexibility and a lot less inventory of parts on the production floor. So our bracing press here is quite complex. We have a 65-foot radius is the actual press itself. And the braces that are made in Tecate, they're shaped on a shaping machine, and they have a radius shaped into them as well. And what we have is the fingerboard brace is about a 35-foot radius. From the X brace up towards the neck joint, that radius is about, I think it's 40-foot radius. And it generally flattens off from the bridge down to the tail. So when you take all those different radiuses and you glue them onto a 65-foot sphere vacuum press, the end result is generally a 50-foot radius all the way around from the bridge to the neck joint, and then it generally tends to flatten out from the bridge down to the tail.
Wild.
Yeah.
Some serious math going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And some more information for you is, you know, our press times on spruce guitars are about 7 minutes. So we can put our top in, use our template, align all our center lines, glue our braces, set them down, close the lid, throw the valve down, and 7 minutes later we can pull it out and we can clean it up and scrape it up and prep it for the next operation. And our cedar tops we let sit for about 15 minutes.
Wild stuff, man.
Yeah.
My brain is exploding with the technology of these doggone guitars. It's actually the beginning of the neck making process. Want to tell us a little bit about what's going on here?
Sure. So basically what we have in front of us is kind of the progression that we go through with our neck blanks. So what you see behind you is all set up. This is what we receive from our own mill right here across the parking lot.
Okay.
And they'll be delivered in sets. So what we've taken is we've taken a blank, and what we have here is blanks for the heel, the peg head, and the shaft, all from the same piece. So what we'll do is we'll take that, we'll mill our joint into our shaft and our peg head, and as you see, this fits together perfect. We'll use locating holes to make sure that this joint aligns perfectly within our pneumatic press that you just saw a minute ago. And that regulates the pressure that is applied to each one of these joints. So as soon as they come out, we'll take it, we'll put a trim on there. And this machine behind you, we'll take a blank from this state and put a rough profile on there.
Got it.
So once this rough profile is cut on this neck, we'll actually put this back there in our climate control wind tunnel and let this neck acclimate. We're encouraging and promoting movement and getting all of that movement out of the wood so that we can go and we can cut it flat and end up with a really stable neck.
Got it.
So from here, it'll move on to our next process here, which we would install our truss rod, and then later on down the line, glue on a fretboard, cut slot for binding, install binding, and go all the way through our process to where we end up carving that neck.
Cool. Excellent. Thanks.
Cool.
Let's move on. Adriel, tell us a little about what's going on here.
Okay, so what we got going on right here is the first step in our neck making process after we've taken that blank, let it acclimate, let it move, get it nice and square and flat. So what we're doing right here is we're cutting a slot for our truss rod. We're going to do the counter bore for the nut and washer that come out of the peg head. And we'll also cut and install a T-nut here.
Okay.
So what we're drilling right now is some holes for the head of the truss rod to be seated at the end of the slot. This is a drill bit with a counter bore for our T-nut.
Okay.
And then we'll take this tool. This tool is custom ground for us to this particular shape. So it's cutting the slot for the T-nut, or for the truss rod. At the same time, it's cutting the slot for our filler stick. So it's making a couple passes because we can control the width of that slot.
Got it.
So what he's doing here is making sure that slot's nice and clean. We get a good fit. The way this truss rod is seated is crucial to the way this neck functions. It has to be done just right. It's got to go down square. It's got to be seated properly in that slot, so that when you go and you put tension on that truss rod and try to adjust your neck, it does what you want it to do. Go ahead and glue a filler stick in. So these get glued up two at a time to go on this press right behind you. So that's it.
Cool. And how long do they?
They're going to be in there, usually it's a rotation. So he'll fill this side, fill the next side, and when he's ready for more, he'll pull those out. So when he's going full speed, it's probably 15 or 20 minutes that they're in the press.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Adriel is showing me a little bit about this neck finishing operation we got going here. Describe for us, if you would be so kind, sir, this apparatus we see before us.
So what we got in front of us right here is one of our CNC machines, and what David is setting up right here is a carve program. So what we've done to this neck so far is we've gone ahead and put it through a rough mill process, glued a fingerboard on there, fretted it, radiused it, and glued a heel blank on there. So right now at this point, we're ready to carve.
Cool.
Yeah.
So he's just about to engage this device as we speak. And we're
Exactly.
going to see some slicing and dicing.
Yeah, so the very first part right here that you're going to see him run is a bevel tool, which will actually put the angle on that heel cap for us.
Okay.
It will give us a glue surface for the heel cap. He'll glue that on, and then the very next step is when we carve that. And basically after it comes out of this machine, it's going to be ready to sand out and then go straight over to our finish department.
How long of a, I suppose we'll see, but how long of a process is this? Pretty quick?
It's a 5-minute carve. So what you're seeing right now is just a bevel cutter. So that cut is already cut to height to take into account the thickness of the heel cap and how that neck will fit in our body pocket. So as you go ahead and run a different program on there now, we'll give it 10 or 15 seconds for that heel cap to dry. So load it in, and basically with those 2 end mills that we have loaded in there, it's going to go ahead and cut the rough paddle shape and then carve the rest of that neck. This is just giving us a rough paddle shape. That'll go through a similar process one more time after finish to mill our final surface in there so that it fits nice and perfect in that body pocket.
wild. I was just thinking though when he was pressing those buttons, what happens if he presses the wrong?
Oh, bad things can happen. Yeah.
Probably not a good machine to be running when you're hungover, I would imagine.
No, definitely not. We don't encourage that. But yeah, I mean, the finish surface that we get off of these things is awesome. We can hold specs to within 1/1000th of an inch.
Wild. Now this machine also cut out the headstock as well?
No, that's actually done by hand on a shaper jig.
Oh, okay.
So the heel is basically the longest part. You have so many lines in there. Once it gets going on the shaft, it goes pretty quick.
Pretty wild. So is there a pretty general template that all the guitars have, or do they vary from?
No,
they probably don't vary that much, right?
You know, using this machine, we're able to get a really consistent neck, very, very consistent. The only reason they would vary is the scale of the neck, the width of the neck, the type of profile someone might want on their neck, whether it be V-carve or a T5 profile.
Got it.
Yeah, that's why what we're seeing here is running on a single position fixture, because it's kind of an oddball. So this is a narrow 400 that we're running.
Okay.
If we were running something like a standard scale medium nut, we have 8 position fixtures where we can go ahead and load multiple necks and have them all go.
I got you. We were just talking about how many different necks do you guys make?
Wow, there's lots of different combinations. Basically, you have your 3 nut widths. You have our short scale, standard scale, baritone, 12 fret. So any combination within that,
Got it.
it's we can really make a neck for anyone.
Cool. Pretty wild. Get a kick out of this thing. It's obviously a state-of-the-art thing, but this thing looks like a Cold War era, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it does. It's definitely, yeah, some old school monitor there. These machines have definitely served us well. I mean, they give us a lot of flexibility. Basically, any one of these machines can be set up within minutes to run any one of our operations, whether it be running a truss rod, sanding and fretting that fingerboard, or carving a neck.
oh, so they do these machines. This one machine can do all these different functions.
Yeah, yeah.
Wild.
Well, that's it. This neck
Cool.
is ready to come out. There you go. So this neck's now ready to shape the peg head and then go right over the sanding area.
Wild.
As you see, I mean, it comes out with a really good surface on there. We want to maintain that shape and make the sanding as easy as possible for these guys.
That is unbelievable. Cool. Let us wait before we go. What is this device right here?
That is a Taylor creation. This is something we came up with in the process of shifting from a finger joint to a scarf joint. So this is actually a pneumatic press that we use to glue up our neck blanks.
Oh, okay. Cool. It looks like some kind of space-aged.
It's pretty high
Beast.
tech, yeah, and it's given us great consistency across the board using all different species of woods and really improved our scarf joint.
Excellent. All right, let us move on, ladies and gentlemen. We're still with Adriel. Our good friend is showing us all about the finishing neck processes here at Taylor Guitars, and we're in front of another one of these amazing devices. Please tell us what this weapon of destruction is doing here.
So what you're looking at right now is a couple necks that have been radius on the fingerboard. They've had frets pressed, and what we're actually doing is profiling that neck and beveling the frets. We're gonna have a last tool come down right now, and that'll actually cut the string slots in the nut. So that just gives our final assembly guys a good start. They're still going to go in there with files and make sure that, that string height is perfect. Jody, can you pop in that right side or left side QC? So what she's doing right now is loading it up to run the first half of this program, which is going to cut a slot for the nut. It's going to bring that sander down and sand our radius in the fingerboard.
Okay.
And then that'll come out of there for a little handwork where the fingerboard gets hand sanded and those frets get pressed.
Here's a stupid question for you. How often do these machines just go crazy, do something they're not supposed to do? Ever?
Rarely, yeah, it does happen, but rarely. We have a really great machine maintenance crew on hand, and they do a good job of running their preventative maintenance and keeping these things running tip-top shape. So that's just going through and trimming down that binding to make sure it stays in place through the sanding process. This is another, some of our custom tailored tooling here. There's a radius cut on that drum, and it'll take several passes with 2 different grits of sandpaper to get us our radius fingerboard. We're going to go ahead and stop right here, and it'll allow us to go in there with a finer grit paper. And finish off the process. So we'll make a few more passes up and down that fingerboard, and at the very end it'll sand in our drop off.
Yeah.
Wild.
So at this point, this neck is ready to come out.
Okay.
It would get sanded and then come right over here to where Jody is putting in these frets by hand. They're all numbered, pre-cut, pre-notched. And we have this arbor press set up with a radius block right there to press these frets. It takes a lot of practice, good arm, and a good eye to get these just right. Awesome. Cool. So at this point, we would actually put it back in. See that first step that you saw where we profile, bevel these frets. And then the next step would be just to glue on the heel block and this wheel that you see to your left.
Yep.
And then go on the carb.
Wild.
There you have a threaded Taylor neck.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You got it. Right here you can see our neck department employees sanding out necks for the most part. So this is pretty much the last stage in our neck making process. We've gone through the building process over here on our CNC machines, and they've reached the part where these guys are sanding them out, making sure all the scratches are out and prepped for finish.
And how long does it usually take to go through a neck?
For these guys, they're at about 10 minutes a neck right now, going through the process of sanding all the edges, softening them, making sure the scratches are out, getting them prepped and taping them for finish.
Okay. And how long have you worked here at the Mighty Taylor?
About 11 years now.
And so what do you all do in your, what did you start doing and what do you do now completely?
The first couple weeks I was in body, but for the most part, 11 years been here in neck department.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And how has the process changed over the years?
There's a continuous improvement philosophy here at Taylor Guitars, so we're always looking for better ways to end up with a better neck, a prettier neck, and cut out all these steps that might not add to the final product.
Got it. Cool.
Yep.
You want to describe anything here in particular that's kind of interesting, or it's got these little compartments here where they're actually doing the do here. We got some stuff back here in these little compartments back here. What's going on back there? That's just where the necks go before they're actually...
Well, that's something new we're starting here. Basically, what we've done is we've tried this project with one of our models of guitars, and what we're doing is we're building necks to a bin system.
Okay.
Basically, what we'll do is we'll keep that bin system full at a certain number to make sure we don't overproduce and we don't underproduce. We'll tweak the size of that bin depending on what our production needs are to keep our customer, which right now is finished department, full.
Okay.
So as these bodies come through, they'll always have available necks to them. They grab that neck, they move it along with the body to their customer, which is final assembly. So as they use necks, we produce necks, and we do that in a way so that we always have enough necks without overproducing.
Got it. Cool.
Yep.
Excellent.
The binding area for our body department, and Alberto here is putting ab extensions into the slots on the top of this 900 series guitar. The extensions are the ab inlay that will border the fretboard extension. He will then inlay abalone around the top and then bind the guitar with this pre-bent rosewood binding. So a lot of craftsmanship still happening here.
Indeed.
The extension pieces have miters, which aren't a true 45 because the fretboard gets a little bit narrower at the neck end. And he'll use sometimes this little disc sander to get the extensions just right so that the black, white, black kerf links all match up perfectly as they go around what will be the fretboard extension.
So still plenty of hands-on activity.
Yeah. This guitar is a Florentine cutaway, so the purflings at the point of the cutaway are all going to be hand cut so that the lines of the black, white, black purfling, the abalone, and then the inner black, white, black purfling all match up perfectly. That's all done by hand.
Wild stuff. We're here at Taylor again. We're in a new magical white place once again with Chris, the man of the hour. The finishing potentate, if you will, here at Taylor. And we're in front of another highly technologically advanced contraption of doom. I believe that's a technical term for what this apparatus is.
Yeah,
Chris, what the hell's going on here?
Buffy the Guitar Slayer.
I like that kind of talk.
Yeah.
What do we got going on here? We got some backing and forthing and buffing and scratching. What?
It's a robotic buffing. It has a little suction cup hand. It comes and picks the guitar up right here, takes it up to the wheel and buffs it.
That's diabolical. So if this was done by a humanoid, how long would said process take compared to Buffy, the strumpet of doom?
Buffing by hand takes 15 to 20 minutes depending on the person's capabilities. Buffy takes anywhere from 3 minutes to 15 minutes depending on the model.
I got you. So how many guitars are we talking that you guys buff? You got these four in rapid succession. Gets one done, puts it over yonder, grabs another one and goes shwiddly widdly widdly shwiddly widdly. Those are going again technical terms.
Yeah,
I don't want to confuse you with it. Confuse you like that. I'm already catching a little contact buzz from some of the vapors here. Taylor, thanks Taylor. Anyway, so how long does this all, like these four guitars? We're talking as soon as one gets done, so it takes about between 3 and 15 minutes. And then
Well, this particular model takes about 12 and a half minutes. All of these are like models, and they all take about 12 and a half minutes. And it'll pick it up and drop it off in the same spot.
That's crazy. That's crazy activity. And there's multiples of these machines in this fine facility?
Yes, there is. And there's another one. No, there isn't one in Ducati.
But we know what they do have in Ducati.
Yeah, I know, your favorite beer.
Fermented entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I stopped drinking because it makes me break out in handcuffs, but that's kind of a personal statement. All right, Chris, thank you very much for showing us this beautiful apparatus. I guess we're going to go to another flux capacitor infested room here at Taylor. Thanks. Pow! What are we watching here, Chris? Finishing titan that you are? What's happening here?
This is an electrostatic sprayer. It's an Aerobell. We're spraying at T5.
Can you get a buzz off T5, Chris?
Can I get a buzz off T5?
Work with me. What is the substance that's being sprayed on here?
It's polyester.
All right, I got you.
It's spraying the equivalence of 3 coats in 1 coat. So it's spraying about 8 mils wet in 1 coat.
That's crazy. So of the different guitars that you guys make here, how many different types of coats are used? I would imagine there's got to be quite a few, depending on the guitar. And
No, we spray polyester top coat on all of our
all
guitars.
Of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
The mill thickness changes on the models.
Right on.
So the T5 is about 12 mils when it's done, and it gets sprayed twice on this, and that's that.
And how long does it take to dry this molten juice of the night?
This actual spray time is about 2.5 minutes. When it comes out of the cell, it outgasses for 10 minutes, and then it runs through the UV oven, and it gets 4 13-second cycles, and then it's cured and sandable and workable or buffable or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty fast.
Excellent. And so you've been here for 17 years?
Yes, I have.
So tell me a little bit about how the processes have changed over the years. Obviously, this is some state-of-the-art activity going on here. But when you first started, how much was automated? How much was hands-on? That kind of stuff.
Well, when I started, I still had hair, and
you and me both, my friend.
everything was by hand. You sprayed by hand, you buffed by hand. There was no automation. It was just you got your spray gun, got suited up, went into a booth, and did your thing, just like probably how you think you'd paint something.
So in that 17 years, when was it a gradual type of a situation, or one there's like, hey, we got these new flux capacitors?
The 1.21 gigawatts?
Indeed.
How long have we had this? You know, I don't even really remember. It's it took us a good 5 years to get it up and running, and man, late 90s. I really don't remember. We've been using it for quite a while, and everybody oohs and ahs over it.
Yes, I'm moving on right now as we speak.
The transfer efficiency is fantastic with this. You get about an 85% transfer efficiency. Conventional spraying, you get about 15%. So there's a huge cost savings, and then it looks cool.
Indeed it does. So how many guitars a day can be done?
Depending on the production needs, we can spray up to 300 parts in one shift.
Good Lord Almighty. And how many machines? There's multiple ones like this, or what do we got?
We have one here in El Cajon and one in Tecate.
Tecate, they make beer there, don't they?
Yes, they do.
That's what I'm talking about. Kind of funny how that worked out, isn't it?
Kind of funny.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for your enlightening interview here as you spray copious amounts of goop on these delicious guitars.
I like how you put that.
Well, I do what I
Copious
can.
amounts of goop.
I do what I can. Let's commence with our tour of this glorious factory. Come!
Hi, this is Eric Sakamoto with Taylor Guitars. We're in a different section of final assembly. And what I wanted to show you behind us is the glue up wall where we glue our ebony bridges on our guitars. This is actually one of the more amazing walls I've seen. A lot of beautiful guitars, koa, rosewood, mahogany guitars, mahogany top guitars, and even guitars with armrests on them. In this section, we also cut the neck pockets for our guitars to put the neck on there, and also install the expression system and the tuning machines on our peg heads.
Old Doc Washington. I am Pilgrim.
Oh, yeah.
Stay on the one.
Excellent. Beauteous.
Oh, okay, fine. You're gonna go there. You and your adult chords.
What's guitar song?
How about this one? This is one of my current favorites. It's a C minor 11.
Oh, yeah.
Bingo chord. I gotta have both of them barred at the first fret to get G sharp or A flat and the F natural. Yeah, that's the piano player's voice. That's a straight up like, wait guys, hold, I know you're ending the tune. Hold on. Okay, now.
What's the chord?
Oh, it's a minor 11 voicing. My current favorite. 11.
Do the Holsworthian version of
Totally.
for the kids. Kids dig that kind of stuff. Five. 1625. Here we go. Something like that.
Yeah, close it up, close it up, close it up.
Andy Power is a name that I think is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're a warrior of the night. Creator of magnificent guitars, wielder of savage fretboard antics. Who are you? Identify yourself.
Well, most people call me Andy.
I
Some
like
people call me, hey you. Because
You and me
something like
both.
that, you know.
So you have been here at Taylor for how long now?
It's officially just about 2 years now. We, Bob and I had actually started doing some work quite a while in the past, and it led to some inlay development, things like that. But officially, just about 2 years now.
So I heard you started making guitars when you were like 7 years old or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
How does that
Unfortunately,
happen?
guilty as charged. Well, basically, my parents, they're both hobbyist musicians, and my dad's a carpenter. So growing up, there's kind of always scraps of wood around, there's tools, and there's all these music playing people. I'd been playing since I was little, and one day my dad brought home some scraps of wood that were big enough to cut a guitar shape out of. So, yeah, sure, I'll make a guitar. And it blew up, actually. It didn't work.
Literally blew up.
It quite literally blew up. At that point, I didn't know there was braces inside. You know, it's kind of a critical detail.
Now, were you just one of these people that figured it all out by yourself, or did you have some luthier assistants and things of this nature?
I don't think anybody's truly self-taught. You're a product of the things you learn, read, you talk to everybody who you can talk to who knows anything about guitars.
Right, absolutely, yep.
So I did a lot of guitar restoration, a lot of vintage work, a lot of repairs, started building, and you know, anybody who knew anything about guitars, you find out, oh, okay, let's compare notes, you know, what do you got? So it kind of goes that way, where it's just like playing music. You pick up what you can from whoever you can.
Indeed. And you steal it.
Yeah. Like Jack and said, good musicians borrow, great musicians steal.
Indeed. One of my favorite lines, actually. So are you a Southern California native then?
I am. I grew up in Oceanside, about maybe 35 miles from here. I never really made it too far.
There's nothing wrong with the weather around
No.
here. Let me just tell you.
Exactly. I've been some places and realized, yeah, this is about the best place I can think of to live.
Yeah, look, trust me, I just came in from Milwaukee, Wisconsin this morning, and it's cold there.
It was cold here, though, last week.
Yeah, but that's all relative, though.
Yeah, it is.
So tell us about some of these new contraptions that you've helped devise here.
Well, the one that we're most excited about at the moment is this grand orchestra guitar. It was about a year ago, Bob and I, we were talking about, revamping the jumbo guitar and what we would do to it. So I built a few guitars, gave them to some artist friends, and then one day we just stopped and looked at each other and go, well, if we decided that we just wanted to build a new big guitar with no limitations and kind of no preconceived notions of what it would be, what is that guitar? What would we build? And that's what basically spurned the development of this. I quite literally went to my drawing board, took a ruler out, and decided I want to make a big guitar this big with a body this long, and then just started connecting dots until they turned into curves that I knew that would sound good. So that's where the shape came from. It was literally a one and done. I realized after I drew a bunch of different versions, that's the one. And then, oddly enough, a couple days later, I'm walking by and I've got a Grand Symphony guitar in my hands. And I look at it and hold it up and realize, oh, that's just not fair. I've almost just done an exact enlargement of a Grand Symphony. It is a little different. The proportions are a little different, but you can see the family resemblance in there real closely.
The thing that just astounds me is you're going through the plant and seeing all the different processes and so on and so forth, and just by the nature of things, I've just been in solid body world for so long that you just kind of take for granted the math that goes into making these things. And
it's a lot of math.
And so you've obviously got to be very math savvy. It's not by you know what I mean. It's not a random. That looks good to me. You know what I mean?
Oh, I try to kind of hide that because it's not one of the more appealing qualities that you want to have as a guitar maker or player. You don't want to be the biggest nerd in the world, even though you are. So yeah, I do a little bit of math, but in reality, a lot of it is just taking concepts, things that you've thought of, and going, okay, this is a practical application of this crazy complex theory. Does this actually work? Well, hey, what do you know? This is really going to work. Like, interestingly, the bracing for this guitar, I had been doing all kinds of ugly math to try and figure out a couple of little things that I'd been thinking about. And growing up here, I'm a lifelong surfer. And there's a spot about 10 miles away from here that I just love. And it sits at the base of this real tall bluff. And so I'm standing up there after I get out of the water watching waves approach. I go, oh, dang, look at that. That's exactly the same effect that I'm trying to build into this bracing. Because a wave moving through water, it's moving slow enough that I can actually see it and watch how it's going to develop. A sound wave is way too fast. I can't see that. But in this case, the way that the unique geography of this particular surf spot is really similar in concept to what I was trying to build into the bracing and the resulting sound waves that this guitar is generating. So by having like a very practical, real kind of demonstration of what this thing is going to do, the next day I came back here and it was really clear, oh, I need to cut this part like that and that one like that. And we'll put them together and what do you know?
And
there it was.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. So
wild.
Some things kind of go like that. We're fortunate to stumble across the bits of knowledge that we need at the very moment you need it.
Yes.
So you could do equations and math all day long, and then you go, darn, there it was. I just wasn't paying close enough attention.
Right.
It was right there in front of me all these years.
Now, for instance, you were playing this guitar and you've done something different to this.
Yeah, this is a new prototype guitar. It's basically a guitar that has a lot of the same concepts and same principle that we built into the grand orchestra. So it's a certain type of bracing, it's a little different movement. In a nutshell, instead of creating a really complex, almost distorted kind of top movement, it makes the whole top move a lot like a speaker cone. So the whole thing has this big dynamic range and this real responsive quality. That's why when you go to play a note on that, you kind of don't really find any of those spots where notes are a different color or a different, this one's dark and real warm, the next one's a bright note, or this one note is louder than the other.
Sure.
The whole thing is really uniform and has a real linear responsive character. It's a result of this bracing development. You know, the whole thing is wanting to be set in motion real easily.
It's wild stuff, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
You know, you're a happy individual. Everyone I see here is happy. They're all smiling. This is a great place to work.
It is. And besides, it's January and
The
it's
sun's
75 degrees outside.
That doesn't suck at all.
No, it makes it real good.
So now that you've been here for a couple of years, you've seen some of your projects come to fruition. Where do you see this thing going? I mean, what are kind of your grand designs for the future in guitar?
Well, on a very basic level, what we're after is really good music. So almost every decision that we make is based on what's going to give us good music.
Can I quote you on that? Because that's a good goal.
Well, it is. It's kind of a lofty thing, but you have to start from somewhere. You need some sort of foundation to stand on. So that drives just about every design decision that we're going to make. Whether it's the thickness of a finish, the placement of a brace, a new guitar design, anything. What we're after is to try and build something that's uniquely refined, reliable, consistent, and value-driven that we can put into the hands of players and go, here you go make some music. Let's hear the artwork that you're going to create. You know, so ideally, to me, that means taking guitars, which is a pretty young instrument, really. The steel string guitar, it's only about 100 years old. Compare that to the tradition that you see in the bowed instrument world or even pianos. You go, okay, well, there's still a lot that we haven't explored with this. So I'd like to take the guitars that we're building and continue to refine and develop them until they've turned into something that's a little beyond what a musician could ask them to do. You know, once it's a little farther than what a guitar player could ask, okay, that would be good. And I hope we never quite get there.
Glorious. I like this guy.
Well, that's what we do.
Perfecto. Why don't you tell me a little bit about some of these morsels we have in front of us here? You got some classical guitars of destruction.
This is kind of ongoing experiment. You know, like I was saying earlier, all of our guitars, they start from a guitar maker's bench. We're a guitar company, a manufacturer, but yet everything that we do is still generated by a guitar maker. So Bob and I will get out, we sharpen our chisels, we make stuff, we go, okay, well, what do we think about these different flavors? In this case, these are some classical guitars that we've been working on. You know, and this has been a slow, ongoing project over the last couple of years. And so these are just the most recent in the kind of that line of development. None of these are alike. None of them are anywhere close to production. They're just guitars that we've been making on the workbench with chisels and hand planes.
So just give us an idea of, like, you come into work, I mean, obviously it sounds like there's a lot of different things going on at any given time. So
there are.
What's a typical work day for Andy Powers?
Usually involves an early morning, a lot of coffee.
I hear that.
Yeah. Some guitar playing, shavings on the floor, and, you know, juxtaposed with running a laser.
Sorry about that.
You know, it's the range of work that I get to do here is just an absolute ball, because I might draw an inlay and then 2 minutes later go and use one of the most cutting edge machines we have available to us to cut those inlay parts. And then I'll run back here and take a 100-year-old chisel and put them in a fingerboard. You know, so It's a lot of traditional instrument making combined with the resources of a really modern manufacturing facility.
Excellent. I got to ask you, does the smell of a guitar ever get old? I don't think it does, right?
It changes.
It's a glorious vapor.
You know, it's really funny. To me, having quite a bit of vintage experience with some of the really great old guitars, you realize, man, these things, might have come out of an assembly line in sequential order, but as soon as they left that workshop door, they lived completely different lives.
Yep.
Because one of them, a heavy-handed blues player got it. The next one, a gal who played, Bach arrangements, fingerstyle played it. Those guitars lived radically different lives. The smells, the scratches, the dents, everything that accumulates over the lifetime of that instrument is really amazing.
It's true.
It really takes on a life of its own.
Absolutely. Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
It's my pleasure.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Hey folks, Fred Koch here. We're at Taylor, the Impalers of the guitar world. We've had a blast here today, touring around, seeing majestic instruments, majestic people making majestic instruments in a majestic Southern California landscape. Majesty is at hand. So, here at Wildwood Guitars, you can procure these instruments, and they all smell good. Isn't that right, Andy?
That's right.
Dig the vapors.
Yep.
Read the nomenclature. I don't even know what that meant, but it rhymed, and that's
It did.
important.
That is
Thank you so
very
much, folks. We'll see you cats on the flippity floppity.